Smoke poured out of the massive mansion like something out of a movie. But this wasn't a movie. It was real. A man lay motionless on the front lawn, the house behind him fully engulfed in flames. By the time firefighters made it inside, there were 3 more bodies waiting for them. A family of 4, gone.
Where?
Willowbrook Lane, Willowbrook Road.
What is on fire?
The house. And there is a smoke's coming out, and there's a person laying down.
Where are they laying down?
On the property.
Can you get over
in
to
front
them?
of the house.
All right, get over
Yes,
to
I'm coming over.
Okay.
Oh my God, there's blood here. It's a corpse.
It's what?
It's dead.
What's dead?
There's somebody is dead here.
It was November 20th, 2018, and the quiet, horse-loving township of Colts Neck, New Jersey had just turned into a crime scene straight out of The Sopranos. What no one knew at that moment was that this was only half the story, because about 7 hours earlier, just 20 minutes away, another house belonging to the same family had also gone up in flames. The name Canero was about to be all over the news. Keith Canero, 50 years old, was the guy who had it all, a self-made tech entrepreneur, husband and father of 2. He co-owned 2 businesses with his older brother Paul, a tech consulting firm called Square One and a pest control company called EcoStar. Both operated out of Asbury Park. The brothers were close for most of their lives, born and raised in Brooklyn, later moving to Jersey. They'd married women from Staten Island, lived 20 minutes apart, and shared what looked like a strong family bond. But under the surface, there was tension. Paul had been in a terrible car accident in 2012 that left him with chronic pain and unable to work properly. He was frustrated, bitter, and started relying on disability payments. Except, he was still involved in the family businesses. Keith, the more ambitious and successful brother, covered a lot of the slack, but it began to wear him down. By 2018, Keith wanted out. He was ready to sell the companies, maybe even work for one of the big tech firms. Paul, though, wasn't having it. He needed the money and the control. The two began arguing constantly about finances, expenses, and missing funds. The night before everything went down, Keith sent an email to his younger brother Corey. It was a forward of one he'd written to business partners. In it, he said he was done paying Paul's wife anything until missing company money was explained. That was the last big message he'd ever send. Around 3 a.m. the next morning, neighbours in Colts Neck reported hearing 5 gunshots. Police responded but couldn't find anything. Hours later, firefighters showed up to find Keith shot 5 times, once in the back, 4 in the head, lying on his lawn. Inside the burning mansion were his wife Jennifer and their 2 kids, Jesse age 11 and Sophia age 8, both stabbed. The autopsy later showed they were still alive when the fire started. Now here's where it gets even more twisted. Just 2 hours after those gunshots at 5 a.m, another fire broke out, this time at Paul Canero's house in Ocean Township. He, his wife and their daughters made it out unharmed. Paul called 911, calm as can be, saying his smoke alarm went off and the whole house filled with smoke. He even mentioned a turtle inside. Nothing about danger, nothing about panic. At first, maybe just a coincidence. But then investigators noticed a few things that didn't add up. There were gasoline cans found all over Paul's property, one sitting right on the driveway. His home security system had been turned off hours before the fire. When police asked why, Paul said the cameras were slowing down his Wi-Fi, except the system was hardwired, not wireless. And while Paul's footage was conveniently missing, a neighbour's security camera wasn't. Around 2 a.m, it captured a white SUV as just like Paul's Porsche, leaving his driveway and heading toward Colts Neck. 2 hours later, the same SUV came back. Inside Paul's house, detectives found gun parts, a silencer, and ammunition that matched the shell casings at Keith's murder scene. Same brand, same head stamp. In a melted plastic container near the fire's origin, they found bloody clothes. The blood matched 8-year-old Sophia Canero. That's when it all clicked for investigators. The double house fires weren't bad luck. They were connected. The first was murder. The second was a cover-up. A few days later, Paul was arrested and charged with 4 counts of murder, arson and weapons charges. Prosecutors said he shot and killed his brother outside the mansion, murdered his sister-in-law and their children, then set the house on fire to destroy evidence. 2 hours later, he tried to burn his own home down to make it look like the entire family had been targeted. They said the motive was financial.
But we called this press conference for the purpose of announcing that additional charges have been filed against Paul Canero this morning, and he's been served with those charges while he's detained at the Monmouth County Correctional Institute here in Freehold. We have charged defendant Canero with 4 counts of murder, 1 count of aggravated arson, 1 count of possession of a firearm for an unlawful purpose, and 1 count of possession of a knife for an unlawful purpose. These charges that were filed this morning are in addition to the charge that was filed last week out of Ocean Township for the alleged aggravated arson of the defendant's own home. And by filing these charges, the state alleges that the defendant murdered his brother Keith Canero and Keith's entire family, his 2 children, Sophia and Jesse, and his wife Jennifer, during the early morning hours of Tuesday, November 20th. Specifically, we allege that the defendant repeatedly shot and killed his brother while he was outside of the side of his home, and then moved to murder the rest of the family inside the home. We allege he started the fire in the early morning hours of Tuesday, November 20th, after he allegedly murdered the Keith Canero and his family. Now, it's a fair point about the fire not being reported at 12:38. Based on what we know from cause of origin of that fire, it was started in the basement. It continued to smolder until when there was entry made into the home, a great deal of oxygen coming into the home effectively fed that fire. So it wasn't reported until 12:38, and what we believe caused the fire to catch on from there is likely the feeding of oxygen as the house was entered into. Now, understandably, many have questioned and wondered about a motive to these alleged crimes. Based on our investigation to date, we believe that the defendant's motive was financial in nature, stemming from his and the victim's joint business ventures that they owned and operated out of Asbury Park.
Paul had been stealing from the businesses and even dipping into his niece and nephew's college funds, about $90,000 worth. Keith found out, threatened to cut him off, and the situation exploded. In court, Paul pleaded not guilty. His lawyer claimed he loved his brother, loved the kids, and would never harm them.
Present Paul Canero. You understand that Mr. Canero has been charged with 4 counts of murder, associated charges of arson and weapons possession. Mr. Canero maintains his innocence of the charges. He has indicated that he would never engage in conduct which would cause harm to his brother or his brother's family, and he intends to challenge the evidence that has been gathered by the prosecutor's office in this case, and certainly in his view, he believes that when the case is finally resolved, that he'll be vindicated.
I'd like to add that Paul Canero loved his brother, loved his sister-in-law like a sister, loved those children. He would never do anything to harm them. There's no reason on this earth for him to have harmed them.
But the evidence was stacked high. Surveillance footage, matching ammunition, accelerants, financial motive, all pointing one way. The case still hasn't gone to trial years later, but to investigators it's simple. Jealousy, greed, and desperation turned one brother against another, ending with an entire family wiped out and a mansion burned to ashes. In Colts Neck, people still talk about that night, because in a town built on quiet wealth and old money, nobody expected a real-life mob-style massacre, especially from one of their own.